Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Azim versus Davies fight. And so if you're new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like video if you do indeed like video, and let's get straight into it. So going into this fight, Azim is 11-0 with 8 KOs and Davies is 25-3 with 18 KOs. This fight is a 12-round fight in the super lightweight division. Azim's last fight was a win via KO in round 5 versus Poulsen, and Davies' last fight was a loss via TKO in round 1 versus Barroso. Azim is 22 and Davies is 32. Davies' losses have come versus Barroso in 2024, Cattrall in 2018, and Taylor in 2017. And to speak a bit more about what I've just been saying, like I mentioned, this is an Azim step up realistically, and it's seen as the kind of next step along for him, and it's kind of a perhaps realistically first kind of biggish name in which he's had to face. You know, there's been a couple European level fighters, and before that the likes of like a Charlton and fighters like that, but he hadn't really been tested, and this is seen as more of a test. Obviously Davies is somebody who has fought around world level as of recent. Obviously, he got stopped badly last time out realistically against Barroso, where he looked very poor, and I'm going to speak a bit more about that in just a moment. But like I say, he's had a lot of experience, he's been around for a while, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of version we get of Davies, because if it is the version that we got last time out versus Barroso, then it could be an interesting fight, to be honest. But if we get a typical kind of Davies fight in which like the versions we've had, even against like Cattrall, he didn't look bad, and you know certain fights as well, there has been big successes. Or like a Lewis Ritson, that was a very good performance as well. So there has been performances in which he's definitely done well in, and you know hopefully we'll see that happen and see that be the case. But he's with Golden Boy. It's kind of like a Golden Boy versus boxer kind of first time that they've worked together, or you know realistically worked together. Obviously they've now got this fight with Billy Smith and Zella Ramirez, which is like the big first time in which they work together, where you've seen Oscar De La Hoya be with Ben Shalom and everything like that. And to be honest, I don't even know how much a Golden Boy are back in Davies, to be honest, anymore after that fight, because they just haven't really mentioned at all that Davies is fighting Adam Azim and everything like that. You just kind of have seen Davies walking around with a Golden Boy hat on and going to press conferences with that on. So, you know, it's interesting. I don't necessarily know, like I say, what the kind of whole situation is with them and the Golden Boy. I'm sure if Davies really impresses and gets a win, then perhaps they'll want to bring him back for another fight. But if he does lose, then I think they're just going to fade him out and not even give him realistically any more big opportunities. But you know, obviously Azim has a lot of pressure on him with Boxer at the moment. I think they aren't necessarily in the best of positions. I mean, when you kind of think about the big names in which Boxer have, you think of Ben Whittaker. Obviously, what just happened last time out isn't a career-defining moment or anything like that, and it's not a career-ending moment, and it's not completely shutting off the hype for him, but it just definitely wasn't a good moment for him. And then you also see what just happened with Fraser Clark as well. That was a bad stoppage for him, and that's going to probably really affect him. And like I say, that is slowing down the kind of momentum of a big name for Boxer. But then, like I say, if you look around the other kind of names, of course, Chris Eubank Jr. is a big name in which they have, but he's going to fight at his own accord and things like that, and he doesn't really care, I suppose. I don't really think he cares too much about Boxer. Then you kind of think about maybe a Chris Billum Smith, but like I say, he's in a really tough test versus Ramirez, so if he loses that, then that kind of puts him away from the kind of big fights, I suppose, for a little bit. Rich Riakpor's obviously just coming off a loss. Lawrence Okoli isn't in an amazing position right now. Obviously, he's a Bridgerweight world champion, but before that, he wasn't in an amazing position. So there's not too many huge kind of names in which Boxer have. Joshua Buatsi is a good name in which they have, but like I said, there isn't too many, and I think some of them are getting slowly kind of shown up through these Riyadh season events and these shows. So I think Azim has perhaps even more pressure on him to deliver now, because, like I say, the talent pool in which Boxer have are perhaps getting shown a little bit more their actual level with each fight. And Obviously, there's not really many huge British shows now. Obviously, we're coming off one that wasn't too long ago in Joshua Dubois, which was the biggest one ever. But because of Riyadh season and all the amazing stuff they're doing, it is limiting the kind of boxing events in England that are relatively big. I think this is probably one of the bigger events in the UK, which has happened this year. Queensbury have been good with putting on them shows and have had, relatively consistent success with theirs. Matchroom have really slowed down theirs a lot and haven't put a real good show, British show on for a little bit. They've got Catch Real Progress, which is a good fight, but other than that, they haven't been as consistent, anywhere near as consistent what they used to be. And obviously, they've had things like injuries and things like that, but that's, I think, slowed down. I think Boxer perhaps have also slowed down a little bit, haven't been putting on quite as bigger shows because, like I say, they're now working with Riyadh season and everything like that, so a lot of the big names want to be involved in that. And so, it's going to limit the British shows, so something like an Adam Azim, who, in my opinion, isn't really a massive ticket seller. I mean, I was at the show where he fought Petit Jean, and he was main event in that one, and it was in Wolverhampton. Obviously, that's where Tyler Denny's. That is where his fan base is, and he was on the card. But he main evented in the end. He was the last kind of big headline name to come out, and he fully sold out pretty much the whole place. But Azim didn't necessarily come with that much of a bigger backing, and I think perhaps Boxer are making out Azim to be a bit more of a superstar than he actually is, and he definitely has the potential and the ability to build himself to become that of a superstar, but I just don't think necessarily at the moment he is at that. So I think perhaps it's going to be interesting to see how much of a big draw he can be made into and how well this show is going to even sell, to be honest. They've got the likes of like an Anthony Yard coming back to perhaps spice things up a little bit and get fans a bit more interested. But like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how it sells. And I mean, like I say, speaking about Anthony Yard fighting on this show, I think obviously it's not a Queensbury event, so it's surprising that he's even been put on the show, but you can clearly see that he wants that activity and he wants to, keep busy and he wants to get back out again. And it is a very poor opponent. I can't even remember the name in which the opponent in which he is facing, but it's a very big step down from what he normally has. It seems like he's kind of in too deep, or he's nowhere near the level in which he should be fighting relatively consistently. But perhaps, with him fighting with Boxer, it would make it a lot easier for him to then go on to fight Boazzi, and that is the fight in which pretty much everybody wants to see. So it would make sense if that happens next. It wouldn't surprise me if there is some sort of face-off between the two of them after this fight. And, like I say, back to Azim Davies. Azim has been, I think, also forced to move a bit quicker with the progression in which Boxer was moving him with. Obviously, they were fighting him with European opponents and everything like that, but I think because of the pressure with Riyadh season making fights happen, Boxer can't just continue to kind of pull out of purse bids. They have to keep progressing forwards and have to really push their fighters forwards and really back their fighters. And I think that's what's starting to happen here, slowly but steadily. And like I say, this is a good fight. But also on this card, it's a little bit of a random-ish fight. It's a bit of an interesting fight to have on the undercard. McKinson versus Benj for the IBO World Welterweight title. Like I say, it's a bit of an interesting one. McKinson has kind of always done his own thing, and at least in recent years done his own thing, and has progressed relatively well to get back to this position in which he's in, and has had a few kind of slots on Boxer cards as of recent, but they've been quite low down on cards and shows and not really been highlighted that much, even though he is a relatively big name. And like I say, I think Boxer or promoters in general should perhaps give more attention to him. Like I say, he's seemed to develop his style quite a lot. He's been coming with a bit more stoppages than what he was getting before the Virgil Ortiz loss, which was quite a bad defeat, and I think showed up a lot of things against him really, and he just didn't look like he was anywhere near the level in which Virgil Ortiz is. And yeah, I think he did get shown up quite a lot, and like I say, I think it's made him go away and have to really assess himself and come back and see what kind of routine he wants to go down. And a lot of these fighters who don't necessarily have these big backings but are skilled fighters do often go down this IBO type route, and it's an easier world title to pick up. But Benj is an interesting opponent. It's going to be perhaps an interesting fight. He's got that long rangey type jab, and he's had previous relative bits of success in the past. I mean, he lost to Sissoko, which was probably one of the bigger names in which he's fought, and Sissoko is with Matchroom. I don't even know what's happening with his career. He's not even really been fighting at all. But nonetheless, that was a loss in which he has, and he's fought a couple of times outside of his home country, and he's not a bad opponent at all. But I think McKinson at the moment is improving a lot, and it's going to show a lot, I think, from this fight. And I think he's going to get a TKO win in round 9. And I think if you were to say that before the Virgil Ortiz fight, nobody would have said that he was going to be getting stoppages or anything like that. But like I say, I think he's turning into his shots better. I think he's finding his angles better. I think he's committing to his work a lot more. And in general, he's become a bit more confident. And Benj, if he can get past the jab of his, I think he's fundamentally very weak, and I think if he gets caught with shots or gets put in a difficult position, I think he's probably going to crumble, and that's where I think McKinson, like I say, is going to be able to have success and be able to get that later on to the fight stoppage win. Then going on back to the main event and speaking individually about the fighters, Azim as a fighter, he's accurate, sharp, picks his shots, very tidy in his work. And that's the kind of whole style in which he is, and it's sharp, it's kind of easy on the eye, it's nice to watch, and that's what Shane McGuigan's kind of made him be, and it's a very, like I say, nice to watch style, and when you've been developing through the ranks, coming up, it's very easy to be able to make a name for yourself when you have a ability that good, them kind of quick reactions and reflexes, that fast hands, and like I say, that good, clean, tidy style. It's very easy to be able to progress you and really kind of show you off as a world level type prospect. And I think they were talking about making him the youngest ever world champion. I don't even know if that can still be on the cards or not, but either way, he has that very nice tidy style, which is very good until perhaps you get to a certain level, and he hasn't realistically, I don't think, faced too much adversity yet. Carry on speaking about him though, he's balanced, got good strong shots, measured in his work, works well off his front foot, counters well, plants his feet well, changes levels, finds his range. He's got very good punch variation, like I say, fast hands. He kind of slowly comes forwards, edges forwards with his work, and it's going to be intriguing to see if Davies is just going to let him come forwards or not. We'll have to wait and see. Perhaps if he does hit him with a strong shot, what's Davies' defence like now? And I think that's going to be a real tough, or a real big question to ask. And he also pushes his shots through very nicely, Azim. Negatives about him, I think perhaps overconfidence could be a thing. You see, like I say, a lot with these fighters who are put on a pedestal early on in their career and really kind of pushed as these world level type fighters. If they do get put in that adversity, they can show overconfidence, they can fight emotionally and can get frustrated if things aren't going their way, and perhaps that could happen with Azim. He opens up quite a lot when he goes to throw his hooks. It's very similar to that of Davies in that aspect. I don't think, like I say, he's been put under too much physical pressure. He could, like I say, be drawn into a fight emotionally, and he hasn't really been in that kind of position where he's had to deal with that. So it's hard to say too many negatives about him at the moment because he hasn't realistically faced somebody who's going to be able to put him under that pressure and is going to be able to deal with him under that pressure. And I think, like I say, it's interesting matchmaking in which he has gone through so far. He can wait in range. I think his head can be on the line at times. He can stand quite tall. Sometimes he doesn't commit to putting his combinations together and he goes for them kind of one shot, kind of knockout type shots in which he tries to deliver, and perhaps he's a bit too stiff at times. And if you are kind of just planting your feet and being that kind of sharp, crisp, just outside of range type fighter, if you are going to get caught with shots doing that, how are you going to make them adjustments? And again, we haven't seen Azim have to make them adjustments yet. Davies, as a fighter, he puts you on the back foot. I think he is going to be wanting to control the centre. If he's going to be able to do it or not, we'll have to wait and see. But I think he is going to want to put you on the back foot. He's got a high guard. He's powerful in his work. He's definitely got that one-shot knockout type power. He's a mid-range fighter who pounces quite often in his attacks if he gets you on the back foot. He changes levels well. He's got a good rangy jab in which he does a lot of his work off if he can get it going. He's going to probably put you under physical pressure, and so, like I've been mentioning, this could be an interesting tester for Azim and how he deals with that. He throws from far and he kind of fully tilts and twists into them far shots, them straight shots in which he's going to throw. He aims to pick his shots. sometimes, his accuracy can be off, but he aims to pick his shots, and he of course has that experience at a much higher level, fighting consistently at a high level and making it tough for these top level guys. And perhaps, not Barroso, but like I say, Cattle's a very close fight. Taylor, it was quite a close fight, and he's had that experience to be able to kind of grind out fights and be able to keep coming forwards and have that kind of work rate which is successful. And Azim hasn't really had to show too much of a work rate yet, and what is that like? We're not too sure. Negatives about him, I think he can lose focus. Perhaps I think he is very inconsistent in what version we're going to get of him. And like I say, I think he looked quite lackadaisical in that last fight versus Barroso and just kind of waddled forwards onto shots. He can lunge in, doesn't necessarily care about responses of what opponents are going to do. And Azim, like I say, has got them sharp counters. He walks forwards, weak in his legs. He looked very weak when he was taking shots from Barroso from the very first shot in which he took. He has that lesser speed. I think he can stay in range. He can square up with his shots. He also, like I say, opens up very much so with his hooks. Cutting off the ring, I don't necessarily think he does. His defensive movement sometimes isn't awful, but just like I say, inconsistent performance is what kind of version we're going to get at. Possibly he is slowing down in general. Azim is the favourite for this fight, and I think Azim will win via TKO in round 3. It's probably a bold statement to say, but if this was the Davies of old, then perhaps it would have been something different. But I think if Davies is going to be fighting anything like that Barroso fight last time out, then I believe he's very much just going to get punished very quickly, and it's going to be shown very easily the performance from Azim. Azim perhaps he might struggle with having to deal with the pressure in which, like I say, he has on him, which is a lot, but I think if he can land any sort of shot with them strong shots he has and them sharp, clean counters, he could definitely catch Davies out, and I think he's going to do that and probably punish him. And I don't think Davies is in the right mental headspace to really want to deal with that. And I think he's probably going to get stopped early, and it's probably, like I say, a big prediction, but I think that's what's going to happen. Then if you want to fight, obviously with boxing now working with Riyadh season and everything like that, I'm sure they're going to want to get Azim on with the Riyadh season shows out in Saudi sometime soon. So probably that will be next, and that would not surprise me at all. Perhaps it's a little bit of a shame because that probably lowers even more the kind of boxer shows that are in England. But nonetheless, a Dalton Smith one might actually end up happening now. Obviously, Dalton has been out for injury. He was meant to fight Fernandez, but perhaps that could just kind of be swept aside, and then the Azim one could actually end up happening, which was meant to happen, of course, and it went to purse bids, and then it didn't, and then they pulled him out. So that could happen. O'Leary could be a good fight. That's not really been talked about too much. I think that could be a good fighter. A Queensbury fighter, they're going up against a boxer one, and that, like I say, could happen with Riyadh season. Or Barroso, obviously he suffered quite a bad defeat versus Horioka, but he's still, I believe, the interim champion. I might be wrong. Obviously, I don't think that Japan fights for interim belts, so Barroso still technically could be that interim champion. So if they want to progress Azim onto a fight in which perhaps could be seen on paper an easy way to get into the high world title contention, that could be the fight to be made. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like it if you didn't, like this, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.